Hi everybody, today's guest is George Bourne. George is a rower from Durham University. George, you want to just introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm George, just finishing my last year at Durham Uni. I row for the university, but also for the under-23 team for Great Britain. Did that. I've done European Championships and last year the World Championships where I won gold in the men's quad. So done that and Henry Royal Regatta, but just finishing up at Durham Uni.
Excellent. Can I ask you one quick question before we start? Do you have an erg in your house?
I do. Yeah, I've got one. Fortunately, before this started, we've got one in the garage. So yeah, I've been slaving away on that in the heat of what's been a ridiculously nice weather, but stuck inside in the garage, slogging away on that. But
Bob, so you mentioned World Champs last year, gold medal. How did that feel? To win the gold medal, and how comfortable were you in terms of going into that event?
Well, it was a funny one actually. So I joined a crew that three of which, so the other three of the four had won the World Champs the year before. So I slotted in right at the back of this crew, and it was funny. It obviously felt great to win, but it was as soon as we were in the crew, there was a sense of we are win, but if everything goes right, we can and should take another gold. So on winning, it was almost a sense of relief as well as that sort of, particularly for me, obviously there was that added element of winning my first gold and there was that joy. But I think surrounding the crew, it was a bit of a, okay, now we can breathe. We've done what we should do, what we set out to do. But it was really, obviously it was brilliant. It was so fun, the whole process leading up to it, setting scores that I had not seen before and learning from these guys who'd done well in front of me that they had 1, 2 or 3 golds already. So these guys had wealth of experience and highly talented. So it was great to learn from them, become good mates with them, and then obviously come away with the win at World Champs in Florida was pretty unreal.
And for me personally, with rowing, and something a sport that I've only been involved in the last 5-6 years with you guys at the university. It's not something I heavily got into previously in terms of actual sport I work with. There's no difference, is there, between a football team, a rugby team, and a rowing crew?
I don't think so. We're probably all slightly more, I don't know, unique. I think in rowing we're a bit, we're a funny breed of person who chooses to get up at 6:30 in the morning. But I think ultimately the idea of that team, it's all the same. It's working hard. It's the same mental toughness, the same challenges that you face, same relationships coach to crew. So yeah, I think having done only at school level, but sports through the through my years at school, it's all the same. I think with levels of enjoyment and also the tough moments as well.
And I think my simple analogy has always been, all you have to do is get in the boat and row it as fast as you can from A to B.
Yeah, there were a couple of Irish lads who said that, I think, after the last Olympics. It was simple sport. It's just how quick can you get from A to B? I think they said close your eyes and pull like a dog or something like that, whatever that means. But yeah, I think on race day it is that simple. It's getting to there where the challenges and the tough moments come in, getting to that start line in your best position, getting through the selection process is probably where it becomes slightly more complicated than pulling like a dog.
Yeah. And then we always talk about, especially in my world, performance psychology of marginal gains, you know, that little added value, that 1%, those small kind of little incremental changes every day. And we've always said about all we have to do as a crew, all we have to do as a team, individually, we've got to be a collective to make the boat go as fast as it can. And every decision you make has to be about that. Does this make the boat go faster? So if I decide to miss a 5 o'clock session at Durham, you know, on the river when it's cold and it's freezing and it's foggy, I'm not underselling Durham, by the way, here, because it's a beautiful.
Yeah.
If I choose to miss that, my question is, does that make the boat go faster? And the answer is no. If I'm walking home at 10 o'clock at night and I'm hungry because I haven't, manufactured my nutrition during the day very well, do I sneak in and have a Chinese? Does that make the boat go quicker? So those questions and that simplicity is something that we've talked about a lot at Durham, and especially with you guys as well. And how do you think, especially within your position, how do you think you've helped develop the individuals and the personalities within this crew to actually make the team and make the boat go faster? What lessons can you share with people?
Yeah, I think it's so much of it, particularly from an athlete, is just training to the highest standard that you can. You come and you come to your training session and you perform at 100%, whatever that is, whether it's a session where it's all about speed and you're working as hard as you can, or whether it's a more technical focus or a what we call UT2, so a more sort of endurance focused type session. You work out the goals of that session, and I think for me as the athlete, potentially as the sort of leading performing athlete, particularly on the rowing machine in the club this year, it's just about finding those goals and making sure that I individually hit them and set that standard for everyone else. And we've got, Wade, but we've got our coach at Durham. He's huge on the values of building a team and what it means to be part of a team and how that's going to make a boat go faster than just the sum of the individuals. So I think in rowing that is really telling. It's so much more than just find 4 or 8 fast guys and put them in a boat. It's all about how you can physically link up in the way that you row, but also mentally link up in terms of sort of an honesty, a trust, and just that sense that you'll work for each other. And I think that happens day in, day out, and just setting your standards in training. And yeah, just you sort of build it from day one, I think.
Cool. Well, one of my questions has always been, and this is almost a personal thing, but certainly being backed up by the likes of yourself and Wade and some of the guys as well, is this transition between when you're on the erg, you can hit unbelievable times on the erg. You can hit PBs and you can get through that pain barrier a little bit. But there is a slight transitional difference, isn't there, between when you're on the water and that little bit of, maybe that little bit of boat craft, that watercraft, I guess?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think so much of our testing is done indoors because it's such a good way. You've got a screen right in front of you, specific numbers, and you think, right, that's exactly how fit I am. But there's so much more to rowing than just how quick you can thrash out on the erg. Sometimes it's as simple as power to weight. You've got guys who are big pulling big scores and guys who are small pulling smaller ones, but put them into a sport where it's weight dependent, that makes a difference. But then it also comes down to much finer things, as I said already, about how you're linking up with your blades in the water is one, and then also your commitment and your desire for that crew makes such a difference. We always, in rowing over a 2,000 meter race, we always talk about that third 500, where it's that sort of dark moment. You've come through halfway, but you've still got half of it to go, and it's quite an easy spot to start to wallow in the pain and the pity. But if you've built up values between your crew, it makes all the difference in finding seconds through that third 500. And that's I think what you aim to build in your training through the year and through the winter in particular.
Yeah, the whole trust thing is really important, because it's very difficult when you're watching or when you're in a boat to know whether the guy in front of you is giving everything that he's got or whether it's 1% less, because he's not necessarily feeling it, or he is in that pity stage, that pain stage where he's thinking, oh, am I really up for this? Is there value in this crew? Do I really want it, kind of stuff? And that's why I think personally that if you nail that as a team, if you get that culture right, you get that values right, everybody buys in, then actually that whole question around trust goes out the window. because you know that person, even if they're at 95% their best, you know they're giving at least 95% on the day, and they can't give any more than that. That's their best on the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really funny how the mindsets work all the way through, because I've been maybe changing from Durham to the under-23 team. I've sat in boats being potentially the one who you expect to be at the top end of the boat, and then on the other side I've been the one you'd expect to be at the bottom. And it's easy in every position to find a way where you think, oh, everyone else is sort of, you can in a dark moment let yourself think that everyone else is giving up, so you might as well too. At the bottom end, you can sort of think, oh, well, these top guys should be carrying you along and they don't really fancy it, so I'm not going to make much of a difference if I'm going, so therefore sort of I drop that 1%. Or at the top end, you can think, oh, well, and it's obviously a really dangerous way to think, but I'm doing so much for this boat and everyone else is letting me down, therefore sort of my head goes down, and why would I try for that? And it's, I don't know, I think that's where you build that trust that you are a team, and it's not 8 individuals who are all at different standards. We've spoken about this, that it's sort of, you're only as good as, not necessarily your worst person, but that almost the average of your crew, and everyone's got to step that up 1% and make sure that you're hitting those levels as a team. And I think that's really important in rowing as much as in any sport.
It's interesting how you recreate narratives, or you know, almost rewrite narratives about how you want to feel, and the perception of those narratives don't necessarily sometimes, do they?
Yeah, no, it's funny how it all comes out in your head in high pressure moments when everything, you really shouldn't be thinking any more deeply than, my God, I want this to be done, to suddenly you're thinking about things that have happened 4 weeks ago. And it's just that foundation that you have to build into your sort of subconscious that sort of blocks all that out, I think.
I agree. So with the ergs themselves, you're on the ergs and you're just thrashing them around. Mentally, you know, you guys are going through pity and pain and all kinds of stuff. I've seen people fall off the ergs. People stand up halfway through tests and just go, "I'm done. I'm not doing it." I've seen PBs, all kinds of stuff. What barriers does the erg create? And mentally, how have you managed to get over some of them?
I think, yeah, that's such a good question, because it's, the erg is the place I find the most challenging, or where you sort of reach deeper holes than anywhere else in rowing, but in any sport I've ever done. And I think the best way we've described it is, I sort of hit a crossroads where I get to a point and my head either goes, I could turn right here and it's the easy way out, and I just sort of, I'm go slow and I'm giving up, and the handle's moving slower and my head's down, and that's that done and dusted. Or it's, I can go left and just, well, we have a technique that we've worked out that will help me turn left and think, right, I'm just going to get through this moment and I'll be on the straight road again. And I think that's the best way to do it, is to almost convince yourself that you're not at that crossroads. Is just to stay focused in a moment. And that's, I've got a really basic technique where I just count 30 strokes, which is probably a minute when I'm on a rowing machine, maybe slightly less. And I just think, right, I get through these 30 strokes, not thinking about anything beyond that. I'm just going to get to the end of this 30. And once you're at the end, suddenly you've covered 200 meters or 250 meters or whatever of your 2K test. And you've got through that hurdle and you're back on the straight and narrow. And so I think that's we speak about comfort zones a bit, but it's almost a way to trick your mind into not thinking about the discomfort that you're in and just staying focused on that moment. And you can go even shorter, thinking, my coach will talk about just nailing that one stroke and just do the next one and the next one and the next one. And obviously 30 is a bit more than that, but it's still such a shortened time that you sort of convince yourself that you're okay, and you're not thinking about the end, and you're not thinking about the difficulty that's going to come, and you get through that moment. And it sort of helps me propel myself on towards the end and actually these tests aren't that long, and once you're 4 minutes in, you've got less than 2 to go, and you're thinking, right now I'm going for the line, and any trouble that you had a minute before is almost forgotten because you just get through it counting that tiny segment.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, isn't it? How we started to define rowing as just getting in a boat and rowing it as fast as you can from A to B, but then all of a sudden when we get past that layer and we start to delve into the mechanics of it technically, but also mentally as well, there's so many more layers that we have to be prepared for, and we have to work on, don't we, in order for us to get to the next level and the next level.
Oh God, yeah, and we talk a lot about, and I mentioned already how the rowing machine is the numbers. They're right there in front of you, and in rowing we've got specific markers that are sort of important, particularly for me it's things like what was the sub 6 minute 2k or the 9,000 meter half hour test and that sort of thing. And you've got these specific numbers that as you're looking and they're changing and you're sat there, and it's so easy to think, oh look, suddenly I'm on for a 602, and your head can go, that's it, and you hit 606. Yeah. Or you can be sat there thinking, right, of course I'm on for 602 now, and I'm just aiming and I just get through this steady strokes, and then you've got 500 meters to go or a minute and a half, and suddenly you build and you finish on your sub 6, and you don't, once you're through, you don't think about that again. But you've just got these, as you say, you've got those mental barriers that are set by particular numbers on the ergo that you've just got to break through, and but they go all the way back. It's getting through sub 6 minute 10 and 6 minute 20. Everything's defined by that time, and it's just once you break through that, everything's a bit easier. But when you're halfway through, it's a bit tough to see the end of that goal.
I'm glad you brought up numbers and time, George, because I still remember that photograph with you and your tight lycra with the little psychology of time notice.
Oh God, yeah, we went through that big time, didn't we? But it was those two particular tests at basically exactly the same time. Every week I was trying to go over 9,000 meters for my half hour test, and I was coming up to a point where I had a 2k test aiming to go sub 6 minutes. And I tried to go sub 6 minutes, I think, on 2 occasions, and I'd gone 602.9 and 601.9. And I was getting really close, and it was, how am I going to, when I'm seeing, we work in rowing in splits, instead of seeing a 130, I'm seeing a 129.9. And how is my head just going to go, yep, that's what you want to see, rather than going 129.9, oh my God, it's too quick, and got to go slow, and all this. And it all went through my head every time, and we really just broke through that, I think, about just and that was where we came up with this 30 strokes at a time, and just get through that one, get through the next one, and then before you know it, you've broken through 6 minutes, and you almost did it by accident.
Yeah, and I don't think, if I recall, I don't think it was 5:59.59, so it wasn't just a breakthrough, was it? What was it, George?
Well, I think the first one I did was a 5:58.7. So yeah, it was nice to break through it by, I think that ends up being like a 129.7 split or something, which sounds so marginal, I think, to anyone listening now. But in the rower's head over a 2k, that extra 0.2 was quite a significant thing for me. And it was so nice to finish and look and think, well, actually, I remember with 250 meters to go, looking and thinking, I don't even need to go quicker anymore. I've rocked up with 30 strokes to go, and I'm on my split. I just need to get to the end. And I could almost have smiled at that moment. And it was so nice to be, as I say, I hadn't almost reached that crossroads. That hadn't come into my head because I'd just got through it. And by the time I knew it, I was at the end, and everything wasn't plain sailing, but it was so nice to break it down in a way that meant I didn't get to a moment and think, this is it, make or break. Which way am I going to go? Almost trick myself out of being at my comfort zone, rather than making that conscious decision to work harder or whatever.
And I guess with numbers, when you went, that's such an insignificant number, it purely is the difference between gold and maybe finishing 6th.
Oh God, yeah. It's I was fortunate enough at the World Champs that it wasn't that fractional, but I've watched so many races that are separated by, on the end of a boat, we've called a bow ball no bigger than a golf ball, and you've got races separated by Olympic finals separated by half a bow ball and that sort of thing. So it despite races being even on the water close to 7 minutes, you're separated by fractions of a second. So yeah, so that rowing machine exposes that quite nicely.
There's some research,
so,
and I'm going to get the figures completely wrong because I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like all of Michael Phelps's gold medals in the Olympics, I think the margins for all of them was something like less than 10 seconds or something silly like that.
Yeah,
which is crazy. That's probably that, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's yeah, exactly. The difference between sort of success and maybe what he would see as failure, separated by nanoseconds, is bizarre, isn't it?
Absolutely. So yes, I love that, the little psychology of time, and I've got that picture.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. But it makes us think about actually technically, tactically, physically, and mentally. All of these things are going to determine in your sport time. Time is going to make a significant difference between winning a gold and maybe not even qualifying for an Olympic final, potentially. So everything goes into that. So those small margins are absolutely key. That one question, does this make the boat go faster, in everything that you do, then that's absolutely key, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's and it's day-to-day life that you make those margins, or day-to-day training in particular, but life, I guess, in general, that you build that up. And as I say, especially in the team side of things, everything's crucial in friendships and training standards and values, and everything is all rolls into one, really.
Perfect. And then I guess we're in an Olympic year, aren't we? Oh, we were meant to be.
Yeah.
Coming off 23's World Champs last year, gold medal. What were your plans for this Olympic year?
So this year, I was aiming to sort of do under 23s again. A lot of the guys from my boat have made the step up, so a couple of them were pushing for to break into the senior squads. But now with everything being postponed, I think perhaps the door is sort of slightly more ajar. I really say slightly, but it's something to work for and to think about. And it's one of those, if everything goes right, then, and I've got goals probably slightly beneath that standard, but I'd love to do some senior GB stuff next year, whether that's World Cups or World Championships. And if that all went sort of beyond imaginably well, maybe, then I could sort of open that door slightly more for next year's Olympics. But I think probably focusing more on sort of breaking my way into the senior team. I'm joining a new club next year down in London. So I have a chance to work probably more on my individual skills than I have at Durham. And then see where that takes me, really. And it's nice to have that added motivation of just right there in the back of my head. Look, if you just can go, instead of going 3 seconds quicker, maybe if I went 5 seconds quicker, I'm in with a shout or whatever. So if everything went to plan and I got a little bit lucky, probably, then who knows?
Yeah, I think we make our own luck a little bit in sports sometimes.
Yeah.
We always talk 2024 Olympics, 2028, 2032 Olympics, because obviously we've got to look at 4-year cycles and the long stage of your personal development as an individual and as an athlete as well. It's really nice, the fact that we're in this pandemic and there's a lot of people worrying and panic and things like that you can look at it so positively and think, well, actually, I've got 400 odd days to actually, how much better am I going to be in 400 odd days? And if you give yourself that best opportunity, then if you fall short this year, that's fine, because you are still better than what you were 400 days before that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's definitely it. It's what gaps can I try and close in these next 400 days, and how much can I close them? And then if I do either of those, close gaps and whatever, I start next year, the next Olympic cycle, with a little bit less of a journey to go on and a bit more experience. And I think it's bizarrely, it's the real positive of this whole thing that's going on at the moment, is that for athletes, most athletes, I guess, it's a chance just to keep getting better and to keep getting as close to their best as possible, and a bit more time to think about things.
Yeah, with Hannah, who's the GB boxer who we did a session with, Hannah was talking about nutrition and staying fit, and she's doing everything possibly, but nobody's hitting her in the face at this moment in time.
Yeah.
I think it's slightly different when somebody punches you in the face, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what kind of core things have you highlighted that you're able to work on while you're in isolation? What can you do?
Well, it's been a chance to do actually just quite a lot of volume on the rowing machine. Just as I say, I've got my machine in my garage, and just had a chance to do as much or as little as I want. So as it started, it was quite high volume. Sort of picking up my training, building towards a few tests. And after that, it's been a good chance to do recovery and focus on, I've got individual weaknesses of flexibility and strength and that sort of thing. And with no real tests coming up now for the foreseeable future, it's been a good chance to think about how I can improve myself individually in those areas, so that when I get back into proper training, or sort of a more team environment training and testing and that sort of thing, those things should hold me back less than they are right now. So it has been a good chance to, with, as I say, no pressure environment, to take a step back and work on the basics and the fundamentals, and build a bit of a stronger platform to build from next year whenever it gets going again.
And I guess we also need to talk quickly about the fact that as a student athlete, academics are all done as well now. One exam?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I've got one exam in 3 or 4 weeks or something like that. But all my essays are in, which is funny actually. As soon as I finished, I thought I've now got, because if I pursue full-time rowing for however long, next 4 or 8 years, that's sort of it. I now, from this moment, feel like rowing is the focus, and I think that's quite fun actually. I'm quite excited for that, and nice to have everything out the way. Just hope that it all went well, but we'll see.
It'll be absolutely fine. And again, let's go back to that psychology of time thing, because we always work on this 168-hour process. That's probably about 33 hours you have now a week.
Oh God, yeah, definitely. So yeah, not that perhaps I could have worked a bit harder than I did. So maybe 23 hours. But.
So let's just go 23 hours times by the 400 odd days. Look how many hours it can be better.
Yeah, it's true. It really is true. It's nice as well. And rowing, we have such a focus on recovery as well as performance, because it being such an endurance sport, you've got you break yourself down week in, week out. So it's nice now, rather than finish off and maybe go to the library or even heading to lectures and that sort of thing, I can now make sure that when I finish sessions, I'm eating properly, getting enough sleep and all of that. So I'm looking forward to it, seeing what I've watched it make huge differences to other athletes coming out of uni. So hopefully I can share the same benefits now as I move on into next year, but fingers crossed.
I'm sure you'll be fine. I don't want to eat up any more of your 23 hours. So you've still got 23 hours and 15 minutes of extra work. Thanks very much, George, for the session.
No problem at all.
If everybody can subscribe, we'll do a little PDF with George and some top tips in terms of overcoming barriers and maybe the psychology of time. And people can just download it. And if it's useful for everybody, great. They can work on some of the things that we've worked on. Good luck in the next 400 days. Let's be as close as you possibly can. If it happens, good luck. You'll be fab. And if it doesn't, it's all right, because it's part of the process. It's part of the 4, 8, and 12-year cycle. You'll be a much better rower. but you'll be a rower that's also got a Durham University qualification as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Graham.
Cheers, George. If you can share everything, that'd be great, and we'll speak soon.
Perfect. Thanks, Graham.